Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a beautiful, Wednesday? It's Wednesday already, January 7th. If you're a conspiracy theorist, who knows if another Stranger Things episode is dropping today? I certainly don't think so, but time will tell on Conformity Gate here. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about sports. I am joined by my two friends and co-hosts, Mehrob Fatemi and Nolan Jambor. Welcome in, guys. A big day of sports today. We saw a lot of big stuff in basketball yesterday, but we're going to save that for the Mehrob Minute on Friday. But let's talk about some football because the playoffs are here. And not only that, Black Monday has continued to roll into Black Tuesday, and I don't even know what's going to happen today because now John Harbaugh, the longtime coach of the Ravens, is no longer with the organization. They fired him yesterday. The Commanders let go of not just their defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr., but also their offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, who is getting head coaching interviews right now. That is a wild story kind of coming out of left field. There's a lot of big news coming out of the NFL, but the playoffs are here as well. We're going to go over our award picks for this season, the season that was in 2025, and we will take a look at the 14 teams in the playoffs right now, rank them 1 to 14. Who's the best one? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? And who has no shot at it? Before we get into that, though, how are you guys doing today on this beautiful Wednesday? He's ready to go. We're all ready to go here. Let's kick it off. Let's kick it off here, boys. Let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about John Harbaugh. This is a move that I thought had to happen, Mehrob. This is a move that I figured with the way this season went was the right one, but I did not see this happening in any world. This took me really by shock. I could not picture a world where the Ravens did not have John Harbaugh as their coach. He's been there for 18 years. According to reports, a lot of it was because he was not going to fire offensive coordinator Todd Monken, but now that job is open. And real quick side tangent, boys. Todd Monken was getting head coaching interviews after what he did this season. I think that's ridiculous. He should have been fired, and now I expect him to be from the Ravens. He's not going to get a head coaching interview, or maybe he will, but I don't expect him to get a job anywhere. This is a Ravens team that is so good, it's unacceptable for them to miss the playoffs. I know they dealt with injuries. I know they did. But moving off of Harbaugh after this felt like the only right decision. You could count a lot of games where there was one play or one bad decision by this Ravens squad that if they had gone the other way for them, the ball had bounced the right way, or if Harbaugh had made the right decision. This is a Ravens team that we're currently talking about still being alive and not sitting in Cancun right now.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a Ravens team flat out with a top 3 level running back when he's playing at his best, and a top 3 level quarterback when he's playing at his best. Lamar Jackson is a guy with Super Bowl aspirations, with Super Bowl level standards, I would say, on his head. He's one of the best that he can do it. He can run, he can pass. Derrick Henry is unbelievable. He's a truck, even though he's getting older a little bit. This is an offense that should have been way better than it was this year. They still have Zay Flowers on the outside. This offense should have been far better than it was. Now, I will say their defense got destroyed with injuries this year, but you can't handle that. You just got to roll with the punches. I was saying what I was saying on, what was it, Friday when we talked, Jeremy? That game between the Steelers and the Ravens was also a game where whoever lost that game, the head coach was going to get fired. Now, Mike Tomlin could still get fired, but John Harbaugh is out, and it makes sense with how the last few years have gone. You can't beat the Chiefs. The year the Chiefs don't make the playoffs, you don't make the playoffs. It's just year after year, bad decision making down the stretch. There was a lot of moments where you just look at John Harbaugh and you say, you're playing too aggressive. You're doing this. You could have just taken the points, gone to overtime. There's been so many of those moments where he'll roll the dice at the end of games, go for 2-point conversions just to go for wins. there's just a lot of play calling issues that I've seen. And like you said, Todd Monken, how he was getting head coaching interviews last year makes no sense to me. He will not be getting head coaching interviews this offseason, most likely. He just needs to regroup in another offensive coordinating job. And maybe going to our next segment, maybe it could be the Washington job, honestly, with that new opening going up.
We'll see. I mean, there was reports that he was getting head coaching interviews with the Browns this cycle, which I thought was insane after the performance that he had this year with the Ravens. I felt like that would disqualify him, but it's the Browns. Nolan, we talked about ranking our head coaching openings. If you were given a blank check, a blank offer to go to every single opening, we ranked all 6 of them. There's now 7 openings. We ranked them 1 through 6 here. Where do you slide the Ravens opening in? Does it slide right up to the top at number 1, or are you putting it below a couple of teams?
I'm still putting it below a couple teams because yesterday we talked about, the Falcons, the Giants, who are both really set for the future with a bunch of young guys. And the Ravens are still set. They still have an MVP caliber quarterback. They still have Derrick Henry, hopefully for long. They still have a good tight end combo with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. They still have Zay Flowers, who's only like 24 years old as their wide receiver one. The problem is their defense. Their defense has been kind of like a struggle recently. So if I'm a defensive head coach, I might, maybe I'll slide that down a little, like probably like 4 or 5. But if I'm like an offensive guy, I would honestly put that at 3. Their offense is always going to be good no matter how well Lamar plays. And we saw that. Lamar didn't play multiple weeks this year because of his back, because his back kept getting tight. He didn't play against the Packers. And when he did, he got hurt. So I don't know. It kind of sucks because this team is good. And John Harbaugh has been there since I've been watching football for about 12 years. And I have never seen a different coach the Ravens besides John Harbaugh. So it'll be a little weird to see a different coach there in the purple. But it happens. But like I said, if I'm a Ravens coach or like a coach, I think the Ravens are probably gonna go to number 3 for me, behind the Falcons and the Giants.
Yeah, I'm not quite on the same page. I think they slide all the way up to number 1. You've got Lamar Jackson. No other coach opening has an established quarterback like Lamar does. I think pretty like you do with Lamar. I think pretty clearly this is the best job opening. You can try and make an argument if you like Michael Penix or if you like Jackson Dart, but those guys haven't proven that they can be an MVP caliber quarterback. And Lamar Jackson has. I'm taking that quarterback every time. I'm taking Kyle Hamilton every time on that defensive side of the ball. As far as head coaching candidates go, one of the names that I've been hearing, Mehrob, around the league, around circles, has been a guy like Brian Flores, a guy who I won't say flamed out in Miami, but got a raw deal leaving Miami. Like that was just a mess coming out of there. And he's proven to be one of the best defensive coordinators, one of the best defensive minds. I thought he did a really impressive job coaching up a depleted roster in Miami. I think a voice like his in that locker room with the culture that's already been established thanks to John Harbaugh, I think that would be a really great hire. Is he number 1 on your wish list for the Ravens, or are you going for a more offensive guy? Are you going to go and get a guy that was just coaching for the Browns in Kevin Stefanski? Are you going to go and try and get a guy like a Cliff Kingsbury, who just got fired as the offensive coordinator for the Commanders? What is your vibe from the Ravens right now? If you are the Ravens, what's your wish list coach? If you could give a blank check, who would you hire?
If I was with the pool that's out there right now, I would say absolutely go out there and try and get Kevin Stefanski. When you're talking about Brian Flores, people you forget what Brian Flores did in New England before he was in Miami. He was a great defensive mind, and even what he's been doing in Minnesota as well. He's done great things with the Minnesota Vikings these last few years, and honestly, he's proven to be a great defensive coordinator. I think he knows how to keep the pulse of teams and how to keep locker rooms and keep cultures. I compare him kind of similar to like a Robert Saleh kind of guy in terms of how his coaching style. But if I could pick a coach out of the pool right now, it would absolutely be Kevin Stefanski. If I would wait a little bit, I would see what's going to happen over in Tampa Bay to see if Todd Bowles is also going to be on the market. Because if Todd Bowles is on the market, I would swoop him up so quick. A guy like Todd Bowles, who's a Super Bowl champion, not didn't win the Super Bowl with as a head coach, but still was on the roster when the Buccaneers end up winning it with Tom Brady a few years ago. He's one of the best defensive minds in the league. He's highly experienced. Going into an offense like that, being able to put the pieces together of what that defense is, like you mentioned, Kyle Hamilton is still there. You just need to get some better. You just need to get some pieces on the D line, some better middle linebacker play, draft a little bit, and you have pieces in Baltimore that you can win with. You just need to get some pieces over there, and I think a defensive mind would do great things.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point there with talking about the idea of, I guess, this ripple effect. John Harbaugh is a huge, huge fish in coaching circles, right? He is immediately going to get job interviews. He's become a top option for the New York Giants, according to a lot of reports, maybe even the top option. I think Harbaugh would be a great fit up there. I also would prefer Kevin Stefanski just because I think he's a longer-term option, and that's what the Giants need, not a short-term hire. But what this could cause, and when I say big fish, Nolan, they make big splashes. They make big ripples in the water. This can cause a huge domino effect. Is this kind of move going to let other teams like the Buccaneers, like the Dolphins, who seem like they were going to hold on to their coach even though they were kind of on that hot seat, like the Bengals, are they going to look at John Harbaugh in that coaching free agency pool and they're going to say, we could get him, I don't want our guy anymore? Are you seeing any kind of ripple effects, any kind of domino effects from a move like this one?
There can be some for sure, but like you said, I just don't like there's teams obviously out there that need new head coaches that haven't fired their head coaches yet. I think that Miami, I think that he's gone. I think that I'm surprised he hasn't gotten fired yet. He is a great offensive mind. I could definitely see him, being an offensive coordinator for a Super Bowl team, but he just can't. He just can't win he hasn't won a playoff game in 5 years, 6 years, or how long he's been there, 5 years. And his team is good, but it's because he's surrounded. He's got all these all-pro receivers. Tua at his best. I'm surprised the Dolphins still haven't fired Mike McDaniels yet. And with them seeing John Harbaugh on the market now, I could definitely maybe see them making it making a push for it, making attacking it, and definitely the Bengals too. The Bengals with Joe. I actually forgot his name. I can't believe I forgot his name.
Zach Taylor.
But Zach Taylor. I knew it was like Zach something. But I mean, he's been there also a while as well. But he also has obviously made a Super Bowl, made the playoffs. But recently, the team is just not good. I mean, they're just Joe Burrow gets hurt, doesn't play for a while, and the team just turns to disarray. The defense is just dead terrible, letting up 30 points a game. I mean, without they're good with with their mediocre D line. I mean, that team isn't that good. I'm surprised they haven't fired Zach Taylor yet. And with that firing now, I could definitely see them making a push for getting the formal AFC North rival head coach. And honestly, randomly, I think the Browns are going to go for it after him as well. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns go heavily after John Harbaugh. I mean, he's just a phenomenal tenured coach. The Browns have played him many, many times, and I can definitely see the Browns making a push for him.
Yeah, I agree. He feels like a Browns guy. Last thing I got on this one for you guys, Mehrob. Where do you think he ends up? Nolan just brought up the Browns. The Giants are a candidate emerging for him. Everyone that wants a head coach is most likely going to interview Harbaugh. He is, as we talked about, one of the longest tenured coaches, one of the most successful coaches to ever hit the market at this point in his career. He's still got juice left in the tank. I'd be shocked if he didn't take a job after the way that this season ended. He's a competitive guy. Where do you think he ends up?
My initial reaction is also going to be an AFC North team. It's not the Browns, it's the Bengals. The Bengals just make sense in terms of how that offense runs. I think he just needs to go to a team that has some sort of Super Bowl's aspirations, another team that's contending, because he is on the tail end of his career. I don't think he's going to be coaching for very much longer. When I say that, I mean he's not going to be coaching for another 10 years. He's probably going to coach for like 5 to 8 years max and then call it a career. So I think he just needs to go to a place where there's another foundation waiting for him that he can build that team back up. Because I do think the Ravens have had some bad luck down the stretch, and it's played the way it is. The cards have played the way they've been played, and it is what it is. So I think the Bengals make sense. Another team that kind of I guess makes sense. The Vegas Raiders. When I look at the Las Vegas Raiders, you have Tom Brady as the owner. At some point or another, if he's part of that ownership, he's gonna have a voice in in the GM's ear, trying to get talent as a head coach and talent around the team. There already is some talent. I know they have a QB issue, but I think a good head coach could really change the culture of that team and change the pulse of that team to make them a legit contender in the AFC West. So I would say Bengals, Raiders, and outside of that, maybe if the Bucks opening opens up, maybe he could go there. But those are my three, I would say.
I like it. I like those spots a lot as a landing spot for Harbaugh. I do expect with this move a couple more head coaching openings to happen, but he was not the only coach to get canned on Tuesday. The other big story, and the big story of the afternoon before this happened, was Cliff Kingsbury getting canned from the Washington Commanders. He still is a great offensive mind. There's a reason that he is getting so many head coaching opportunities. There's a reason that he is getting so many coaching interviews, because he is a special offensive mind. This season, I feel very strongly, was just unlucky for the Washington Commanders. They got injured, maybe not the most, but they had the most key injuries to key players as any other team in the league. I truly believe that. You lose Jaden Daniels, you lose Austin Eckler early in the season, you lose 3 of your starting pass rushers early in the season. Like, this is a team, I could go on. They lost a lot more players. Terry missed a lot of time, and when he's on the field, that team is completely different, right? They could spread the field, they could push it downfield with him out there, but when he's not, this was a really tight to the chest, 5 yards kind of offense. And that was very easy for the defenses to climb up and stop, right? You're not scared of Chris Moore up the sideline. You're just not scared of a 32-year-old Chris Moore. I know I'm not. There were a lot of issues with it, but I don't think it was Cliff Kingsbury's fault. Cliff kind of left on rocky terms with this administration. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn gave a press conference, and they were a little shaky about it. And then immediately the next day, less than 24 hours later, they fire both of the coordinators. One of the key guys that's stepping up for this role, Nolan, one of the key guys that's emerging for this new offensive coordinator role to coach Jaden Daniels and that Washington Commanders, former head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. They also made a corresponding move to get rid of their offensive line coach, who previously was the Giants' offensive line coach, was let go by them because him and Daboll got into a pretty nasty fight that had to get broken up by former defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. Is that more signs that Daboll is coming in, and is that the guy that you would hire, Nolan?
I wouldn't be opposed to hiring. I mean, yeah, or hiring a former head coach, kind of like not really stooping down, but going from a head coach in OC or DC position is always gonna feel like work out pretty well. I mean, you're not gonna be you don't get a head coaching job without being relatively smart in both sides of the ball, but being able to just take advantage of that one side of the ball, being able to take advantage of Brian Daboll's offensive. He's a pretty good coach. He was not a bad coach. He just never really had the weapons around him to succeed. And you see him get a young team like he had this year. He also didn't do too well, but the signs were there. And I think that him going to a team where he could focus just on offense with a very good and young roster, or I wouldn't say like young for receivers, but a young quarterback, going to a draft, get some new young weapons. I mean, I think him going to the Commanders definitely would not be the worst thing in the world. He'd go focus on Jane Daniels, make him, develop him, keep making him better, kind of take him out, hopefully take him out of his sophomore slump, go jump to his third year, try to bounce back because he had a phenomenal rookie year. We all know he did. Went to the NFC Championship his rookie year, and then obviously had a little down year. Obviously, a lot of players got injured, so it can't really help. That doesn't really help, but that happens. So I think him going to wouldn't be opposed to him going to the Commanders at all because he's going to. I think Brian Daboll gets hired this year as an offensive coordinator. There's no way he doesn't. He's a good coach. He can develop players, and I hope he does. And I hope he gets hired. I don't hope he gets hired as a Commanders coach. Maybe he does. Wouldn't be opposed, but maybe we'll go to the Lions too. Who knows?
Who
But
knows?
who
I
knows?
could see he's going to get an offensive coordinator job. I think he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the league right now. You saw what he did. He fixed Josh Allen. He made Josh Allen an MVP candidate. That's what he was able to do as an offensive coordinator. That's why he was given a head coaching opportunity. And you saw what he was doing with Jackson Dart. I think when he finds a guy that he likes, and famously, he likes Jaden Daniels. You saw that all over Hard Knocks. He wanted Jaden Daniels. He wanted him bad. He wanted the Giants to trade up and go and get him. Obviously, that did not happen. Instead, they got Malik Neighbors, which, I mean, that worked out pretty solid. I'm not necessarily mad at that one. But there is a lot of reason to be positive about this for the Commanders, but there's also plenty of reason to be negative, Mehrob, because this move, it didn't come out of nowhere, because there were rumors, there were reports that this could happen from Diana Rossini earlier in the week, beat reporter for the Commanders for The Athletic, but this still came as a shock. This still was not a move that I expected, because I've had a day to process this. When I first saw this, I was working for the Commanders radio station. Me and the host, we just looked at each other's mouths wide open like, what is going on here? Because this was shocking news. Was this the right move? I'm going to take a step back from who's going to replace him. Mehrob, was this the right decision by the Commanders?
I mean, I personally don't think so. This is the guy that got you to the NFC Championship game last year, and to go from that to just straight up firing him after one bad season, it doesn't make the most sense, you know. Um, I think he's a good offensive coordinator. I would never have Cliff Kingsbury as my head coach ever again, especially after what he did in Arizona. But as an offensive coordinator, he's not bad at what he does. If the Commanders think they can get a better guy in a Brian Daboll, go out there and try. But I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is going to get another job before next season begins, I think, very easily. I think he can go to Detroit. There's a lot of different offensive coordinating jobs out there that's going to be open. I would say the Browns job is also probably going to open up as well. There's a bunch of jobs that will open up that will, and they will line up to interview Cliff Kingsbury. But I do think this was a knee-jerk move, I would say, absolutely.
The other thing is, this is a little bit of a mucky story, because it was reported as a mutual parting of ways. It's been reported as a firing from the general manager. It's been reported as a decision by Dan Quinn. It's been reported as Cliff Kingsbury walking away from the job because he decided that he didn't want to be there anymore. It's been reported in a lot of different ways, and quite frankly, I don't know which one is true and which one is PR. Any of them could be true. Any of them could be PR. But there's a million ways that this story has been reported. We'll just have to see how it goes. But I think one of the key things is he's currently interviewing for head coaching jobs. If you are the Titans, if you are the Giants, if you are the Browns, if you're the Raiders, if you're any of these teams that want to talk to Cliff Kingsbury, and he's coming off of getting fired as an offensive coordinator, can you hire him as a head coach? Is that something that you can do, Nolan?
No, you can't hire an offensive guy who got fired for a head coaching role, especially teams that are focused more heavily on defense, like the Browns. I think that they just couldn't take a chance at a guy like Cliff Kingsbury. Don't get me wrong; like you said earlier, he's a great offensive mind, but I don't know if he can really lead a team. I don't know if a team can really take him, listen to him and follow him and lead by example by him. I just don't think they can. I think no one. I think, like I said, he can go somewhere for a new OC role, but I just can't see him being promoted to head coach. Not the way. Not after getting fired, let go, whatever. I just can't see it.
Which is interesting, because reportedly he turned down the Saints job last year in favor of staying with the Commanders, which I don't necessarily disagree with. Honestly, that Saints job was a miserable opportunity. Shout out to Kellen Moore for turning that team around. That's why, Nolan, we gave them a C on their report card, because of how abysmal that situation was. But it's an interesting 2-year turnaround for him. That the NFL is a very what have you done for me lately league, and we are seeing that very much right now with the firings of Harbaugh and of Cliff Kingsbury. But let's talk a little bit about the NFL awards here, because it's not all doom and gloom. It isn't. There's some happiness here. There are some players that need to be celebrated, Mehrob. And let's start off with the MVP race. There are 2 people that I think have a shot at this, and I think it pretty clearly is between one of those two. Quarterback for the New England Patriots, Drake May, the number one quarterback, at least in my mind. He is my MVP frontrunner, but not too far behind him and pretty much neck and neck, like 51-49 kind of thing, is Matthew Stafford of the Rams. They both had phenomenal seasons. And before we dig deep into both of their flaws from the season and what they did good and bad, I want to shout out them on a surface level. They both had incredible years. They are both deserving of winning the MVP this season. So shout out to both of them for a season well played. But Mehrob, who is your MVP vote?
Jeremy, before I start, I want to echo what you just said again. Both of these quarterbacks are phenomenal, and it is like nitpicking to figure out who is better among these two. You have Drake May, who is the definition of consistency, one of the highest completion percentages we've seen out of a sophomore quarterback in the history of the NFL, not even just this year. The way he's been able to turn around the Patriots offense, with the way he's been able to throw the football down the field. I know he doesn't throw the football very far. He doesn't have a lot of 300-yard games. But in terms of the way that he's able to game manage and make big plays down the stretch, Drake May is a beast, and he deserves all the respect in the world, all the props in the world. Matthew Stafford on the other side, 46 touchdowns. I mean, he's the definition of the long ball. I would say he's a better deep ball passer than Drake May, but it also helps having Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams on your team. So I think Matthew Stafford is working with better talent, but at the end of the day, I got to give it to Drake May. I mean, Drake May has been the definition of consistency, like I said, and that's what matters, I think. That last game against the Panthers where he threw those 3 interceptions and they lost that game, not the one that's coming up this week, a few weeks ago, I think that was ultimately the last game. That was the striking move for Drake May when he cleared Matthew Stafford in that game. Because ever since then, I mean, Drake May doesn't have games like that. Yeah, he might throw an interception here or there, but it's never he never throws 3 interceptions. He never has bad games like that. Yeah, Matthew Stafford may have 4 touchdown games, but when you don't do that consistently and the other guy does, consistency always beats, I guess, talent or one game wonders. So I would say Drake May is the MVP of 2025 for sure.
What about you, Nolan? Who's your pick for the MVP this year?
Honestly, this is so neck and neck. Obviously, my way of looking at it, it's kind of stat watching, but no, to start it off, Matthew Stafford has more passing yards by a lot. He has more touchdowns by a lot, but they also have the same amount of interceptions at 8. However, Drake May was able to win the big games. Drake May was able to get it done when it mattered, and the Commanders really have the Panthers. The Patriots have a higher seeding in the playoffs. They won the division. They're the 2 seed, and the 49ers or not, the Rams are the 3 seed and they're in 5th place or 2 seed. Sorry. So by stat wise, if you're looking at the individual player, I think that Matthew Stafford absolutely should win this, no debate. However, it's not that. It's a team. It's how well did your team actually do? How well did you perform with your team? And I think that because of how they look at it, it's going to be Drake May just because his stats statistically weren't better, but his team overall did better in the regular season. Like I said, more wins and a higher seeding. They won the division. But by stat wise, I think it's Matthew Stafford. But overall, I think it's going to be Drake May.
So that's an interesting point you brought up because I was doing a deep dive into the MVP race last year, and I forget exactly what the number is, but it's somewhere around like 70% of all MVP winners have won their division, which is a really good thing. But this is not an award that goes to a team. This is an award that goes to a player. And I think that is a little bit of a flawed argument that you've made there. I understand where you're coming from. And ultimately, all of us have gotten to the same point. I think that Drake May is the MVP simply because Drake May has those better, not counting stats, but the worse weapons and better advanced metrics. You look at the EPA kind of stuff, the EPA per play, the EPA per drive, all of that. this is exactly what Drake May has dominated, and he has been the most efficient quarterback in the league, and he led a Patriots team that won 5 games last year to the 2 seed. 4 games, thank you, to the 2 seed in the AFC. That's incredibly impressive. I know it's not, comeback player of the year. I know it's not coach of the year. I know it's not team of the year. And wins are not a quarterback stat. I will say that forever. I will say that now. I will say that with my chest. Wins are not a quarterback stat. But you look at the weapons that both of these had, and I think the deciding factor for me, and it doesn't work like this every year, but in a year like this where there isn't a guy that I think wowed me and said, you know what? That's the one that's going to win MVP. In years past, it's been Josh Allen and Lamar. That's just head and shoulders above everybody else, right? But this year, it was kind of murky for a long time until a couple of guys emerged near the top. I think if you swapped them teams, I think the Rams with Drake May would be about the same, and I think that Matthew Stafford with the Patriots would be a little bit worse of a team overall. So that's why I give my nod to Drake May. Offensive Player of the Year, Mehrob, is where we're going next. This one is wide open, for real. I have no idea who's going to win this award. This is the one that I think has the least obvious choices. So I'm going to leave the floor wide open for you. Who are your guys that you're debating between, and who is your pick for Offensive Player of the Year?
It is between 2 guys, and honestly, I think now that I think about it, actually, I'll break it down. It's between 2 wide receivers, and they play in the same division. Number 1 has to go to Puka Nacua. I think Puka Nacua is the best wide receiver in football when healthy. He's a beast. His ability to play physical, to make athletic catches, to play downfield, to stretch the defense. He's an outstanding wide receiver.
He's astounding too. He really is.
So I would say Puka Nacua 1. The second one is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now, what makes this dicey is Puka Nacua might be better, but Puka also got hurt for a few games, and JSN stayed healthy all year long, did not miss a game. So his ability to stay consistent, to have almost over 100 yards almost every single game. There was only a couple games where he got blanketed. I believe he had over 100 yards in at least 12 games this season. He's a beast. He's an absolute monster. The Seahawks offense has relied on him in the passing game. He's the engine to that team. Sam Darnold has loved him. I think his impact on the team is a little bit stronger than what Puka Nacua's is. And coupled with how long he's been healthy, aka Puka Nacua being out, I think it's got to be Jackson Smith-Njigba's award this year. It just makes the most sense to me.
What about you, Nolan? What are your thoughts on the?
Honestly, I was
Offensive Player of the Year?
gonna say the exact same too, JSN and Puka Nacua, but obviously I want to throw in Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he's just the best, in my opinion, the best running back in football. But he just didn't really do anything. Obviously the Lions, didn't do too well. But him himself did great. But realistically, it's between JSN and Puka Nacua, the 2 best players in the offensive side of the ball this year by far. Both were the cornerstones of their team's offenses. Maybe Puka, they both have obviously the good wide receiver 2s and great running backs behind, to pair them with. But they're both just such threats downfield. Both could really take away. You don't game plan right for either one of those 2, and it'll ruin your game. I mean, it's just you'll just lose if you don't game plan right. Those 2 are just the epitome of a great receiver in this current era, and I really can't tell you who's going to be. I really couldn't. I mean, because obviously you have JSN. If you're looking at stats again, he has more receiving yards, but they have the same amount of touchdowns. And obviously, like I said, Puka was hurt this year as well. So if Puka didn't get hurt, he could have had more receiving yards. Who knows? But honestly, I really couldn't. I mean, obviously by stats, it'll probably be JSN, but it really could be either one of them. They're both just so good. They're both can really tear up a defense, go for 75 yards on any given play. So, honestly, I'll just get 50-50 between JSN and Puka Nacua. I couldn't tell you who.
I don't think Jackson Smith-Njigba deserves to be a finalist. I know that's crazy. I know that is. He's really good, and he had an incredible season. But I think there are a couple of guys that I would put above them. First of all, I would put Puka above him. He missed some time, but I think he had a better season overall. I think what he's done for that Rams team is really impressive, especially when you look at the guys that are next to him. I think we're looking at a guy like Devontae Adams next to Puka Nacua, right? That is taking away a lot of production, a lot of touchdowns, and you brought it up, same touchdown numbers as JSN. Missed 3 games, very similar yardage total to JSN. He's not going to win the award because of that injury. I just don't think that JSN was leaps and bounds above him where you can say that is the offensive player of the year. I'm going somewhere where the YouTube chat actually is on the same page as me. At Caleb Carney says, do you think CMC or Bijan Robinson have a chance? And those are my other 2 options for you two. I think Bijan Robinson had a special year on a bad Falcons team. I think that Falcons team being bad is going to disqualify him a little bit, but if he was on a team that made the playoffs, if he was on a team that won 12 games, this is Bijan's award. I very strongly feel that. Where I think this is going is Christian McCaffrey. The reason I say this, they lost their franchise quarterback. They lost their 2 best defensive players, the 49ers did. They lost a lot of key pieces on their offense and their defense. And do you want to know why they stayed afloat? They stayed afloat because Christian McCaffrey was healthy, because Christian McCaffrey went out there and won you games. They did that with Mac Jones because Christian McCaffrey was out there. That is the kind of player that he is. Christian McCaffrey is the equivalent to a quarterback on any other team with his importance to that offense with Kyle Shanahan. And I think Christian McCaffrey is your runaway offensive player of the year. I don't understand why JSN is this almost lock. I was looking at the odds last night, and JSN was like minus 1,000 to win this award, which is insane to me. I don't understand it. I'm locked in on CMC. I think he absolutely should win the award. Do you guys?
Opposed to that at all? Another running back who I would throw in, who I was actually really high on earlier this year before it fell off, was Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was playing out of his. Jonathan Taylor was having honestly his best season since his Offensive Player of the Year run in 2021. And he just stopped performing the well he did. He still had a great overall year. He really did. He was 3rd in rushing yards, 1,500, 9 touchdowns, or not 9 touchdowns, sorry, 18 touchdowns. I mean, he really just did it all for the Colts. He was their core. He's been their go-to player for the past 5 years now, and he's still a great running back. But I think, like you said, Jeremy, since his team didn't do as well, like a playoff team, or only had 8 wins, his great season is going to be taken away from him because, like you said, they didn't make the playoffs. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but you just unfortunately won't. I'll be surprised if he's even in contention just because how the team did. But he's a great player. He'll definitely be back in the contention again next year.
Oh, and he had a great season. He just kind of lost a lot of production down the stretch.
Unfortunately, the players got hurt. Things happen like that. So.
It's tough. You got to sustain that success for the whole season, and because of that, I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. Myles Garrett is your defensive player of the year, Mehrob?
Yep. Easily.
Nolan?
Carry on Arnold. Yeah, it's Myles Garrett.
I feel like we can skip past that one a little bit. Mehrob, you want to talk a little bit about what he did this season? Is historic. It's insane. 23 sacks, breaks the all-time sack record. Talk to me about his dominance, and not really about the defensive player of the year, because that's a foregone conclusion, but does he have a shot to go down as the best defensive player of all time now?
I think he has an opportunity if he keeps playing the way he has, but I think he's just also getting up there in age. I don't think he can go down as the best. I think he'll go down as a top 5 defender in the league. I think he'll go down as the best in our generation. I think in past generations there's been a couple better ones. Michael Strahan, Lawrence Taylor existed. There's a bunch of better guys in the past generations, I would say. But in today's generation, I think he's exceeded all bounds in terms of how good a pass rush can be. He's set the bar, and I think he's absolutely better. The chat over here is saying Aaron Donald. He's far better than Aaron Donald was. Aaron Donald, he didn't play for this long. Aaron Donald also got hurt a lot. I think Myles Garrett's got to be the foregone conclusion. Him and maybe J.J. Watt, but I'd still give the nod to Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I think that question first of all, you're talking about Lawrence Taylor like he's a cryptid over there. He existed for sure. But
Yeah, I
this
know.
is this is a huge moment, right? That sack record has stood for almost 25 years. Strahan did it back in 2002, and of course TJ Watt tied it. I think the more interesting conversation that you bring up is between him, JJ Watt, and Aaron Donald for the best player of the generation. Both JJ Watt and Aaron Donald have 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I feel very strongly that Myles Garrett will get there, Nolan. What's your thoughts on this? How high up on the leaderboard of all-time defenders can he climb?
I think he can easily he'll be top 3, 100%. Like all times, every defender ever, just like like edge rushers or like defensive linemen.
Either,
Any
whichever one.
defensive lineman, 100% top. He could be 1. If he's not 2, if he's not 1, he's 2. Aaron Donald right now, in my opinion, is still the best edge rusher, that's like D lineman of all time. I mean, what he was doing while getting consistently double and triple teamed on the offensive line is just in one of the hardest eras with the biggest linemen. I mean, it was just unbelievable. For right now, Myles Garrett though, if he wins another Defensive Player of the Year, I think in my opinion he'll be the greatest. I mean, what he did, broke the sack record, did it all. I mean, he is the Browns. He is the entirety of the Browns. Teams plan around try not to let Myles Garrett sack them because if he gets loose. We saw what he did against Lamar Jackson and Drake May this year. 5 sacks, both of them in one game. Or I think it was 4 on Lamar in one game, 5 on Drake May. I mean, they didn't game plan enough around him, and they just destroyed their offense. But I mean, Myles Garrett is by far, without a doubt, a top 2 edge rusher of all time, or top 3 right now. I guess top 3. But if he wins Defense Player of the Year this year, he'll be like top 1 or 2. But overall defense, all time at the end of his career, he'll be like top 5.
I like
I'll
it.
say
I really think so.
Go
He's
for
just
it.
that.
I'll say the one thing that'll change if I think what Aaron Donald has over Myles Garrett right now is the fact that he was he was the reason why I would, in my opinion, I know Jeremy, you're a big Matthew Stafford guy, but the reason why the Rams won that Super Bowl against the Bengals was because of Aaron Donald. Not really. Matthew Stafford was great, but Joe Burrow was cooking them in the second half. Matthew Stafford could not get it going in the second half. It was Aaron Donald that was putting pressure in Joe Burrow's face late in that game, especially on that last drive when he ended up missing that 4th down play. I think if Myles Garrett could get out of Cleveland and get traded somewhere, he would have a similar effect on a true Super Bowl contending team. Down the stretch of a Super Bowl, being able to be a game wrecker late in the game. I think him and Micah Parsons are really the only 2 guys I look at with those kind of capabilities, being able to go into games and do that kind of stuff. So I would say if I'm Myles Garrett and you want to be that best defender in the history of football, get traded as soon as possible to go out there and start winning Super Bowls, because that's what really changes the dynamic of this conversation.
Hey,
You tell me the
he
Browns?
tried that, and then he got his bag in Cleveland and changed his mind.
Hey, you tell me the Browns are the Super Bowl team? Well, you tell them. Shedeur Sanders, bro. Promised land. Ready for
We love Shedeur Sanders, but you need a little bit more than Shedeur Sanders to be a Super Bowl contender these days.
bring back Nick Chubb. No. They got Harold Fannin Jr., bro. They're good.
We'll see what happens here. Let's talk about some rookies here a little bit. Offensive Rookie of the Year is an interesting conversation. There's a couple guys that I think deserve some love here, Mehrob. What are your thoughts on the Offensive Rookie of the Year race?
This is an interesting one. You would have said midseason it was Emeka Egbuka's to run away with. Hasn't really played out that way, especially with Egbuka's fall off. I would say for Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's a little bit dicey to pick right now. I think Tet McMillan's another one that comes to mind when you look at this race. I think it's got to be him, you know? I mean, Tet McMillan's been healthy all year. I know he's been a little bit inconsistent, but I mean, this is the guy that's in the playoffs right now. He's the only rookie that's out there right now playing at a really high level. The wide receiver 1 on a playoff team. He's asked to do the most. It's got to be Tet. I mean, who else do you have out there on your radar, Jeremy? Because I know I know you got some guys on your radar.
I got a couple guys on my radar. Tet is the front runner, both in betting odds and in my book. But there's a couple other guys that I think deserve shout out. First of all, Nolan, you brought him up just a second ago. Harold Fannin had an incredible season at that tight end position. He leads all rookies in receiving yards. He leads the Browns now in history in rookie receptions and yards, I believe. He had an incredible season at that tight end position. He deserves a shout out, but that tight end position is not going to win. And I think a couple quarterbacks deserve some love as well. Jackson Dart had a really good year for the Giants. I don't think he's going to win it because he was injured, missed too much time, started out the season a little bit late, and the same thing can be said for Tyler Shuck. That's a guy that I think deserves a lot of love, but missed out on a lot of it. The one guy that I think is interesting that's not in the conversation, though, Nolan, Cam Ward. Cam Ward I have not seen in this conversation. His season was really good. I know the numbers don't stick out to you. He didn't have this flashy kind of, oh my God, look at those top 5 quarterback numbers. But you look at what there was around him and you look at what he was able to do. You look at the plays he was able to make. You look at the way he was able to extend the plays, try and make some magic happen in a Tennessee offense that just was not helping him. I think Cam Ward deserves a lot of love for what he did, and I don't know why he's not getting that love right now.
In contention for, I think he's, in my opinion, he's the best quarterback from this class from this year. Obviously he started every game. He came in and just started right away. All these other quarterbacks, they came in and played, but they didn't start. Cam Ward got thrown right into the meat grinder right away. They said, go have fun. And that's what he did. He threw for 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, a few interceptions. I mean, he had a great season by a rookie standards on a team where his number one receiver was Chimere Deke. Like, I don't even know who that is. I don't know who his number one receiver is.
Pro Bowler, Chimere Deke. We love him. Rookie.
I had never heard of the guy in my life. That is his go-to receiver, and he was throwing for 3,000 yards. Give him Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't care. There's obviously other guys. Obviously, you have Ted McMillan. You have Travion Henderson, who, he's in the conversation kind of, sort of. But, I mean, Cam Ward, I think, should win it. I just don't see. He's obviously their one overall pick. Went to the worst situation in the NFL and did the best he could with what he had. And threw for, like I said, 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns. It's pretty solid. I'd give it to him. If not him, Ted McMillan. If not Ted, Travion Henderson.
Yeah. So Tet and Travion Henderson are the leaders in the clubhouse by betting odds. Tet is the only one he's at minus 350. Travion Henderson is at plus 1,500. Cam Ward is sitting behind Ashton Genty and RJ Harvey at plus 50,000. That's ridiculous. That's
50,000.
disrespectful. I don't think he's going to win this award, but that's just so disrespectful to Cam Ward, right? Cam Ward had, again, not the greatest season of all time, but 3,100 yards. 3,100 yards in a Titans offense. He had 15 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He had a QBR of 80, which, again, not great. I understand that. 60% completion percentage, not great. But, I mean, did Ted McMillan really have that great of a season? He didn't crack 1,000 yards. He didn't crack 900 yards. He finished, oh, never mind, I lied. He cracked 1,000 yards. Shout out to Ted McMillan. I thought he was sitting at about 850. My fault there. Shout out Ted McMillan, 1,000 yards on the season. That probably is going to push him over. 7 touchdowns, 70 receptions. He did have a very good year. His only fumble was that weird lateral one. At the end of the season. I don't count that as a fumble, so no turnovers for him. Very, very good year for him. He's going to win it, most likely. He's the guy that I have as a winner, but again, the disrespect for Cam Ward hurts my heart, hurts my soul a lot here. Defensive Rookie of the Year for you boys. There's a really interesting group here. There really is. There wasn't a rookie that stood out to me. Carson Schweschinger is getting a lot of love from the Cleveland Browns, but he wasn't a guy that I think deserves to be a runaway Defensive Rookie of the Year winner. He had a great year. You don't see linebackers win awards like this often because they're not getting those sack numbers. They're not getting those interceptions. He had a really solid season over there. James Pierce, second place. He finished with 10.5 sacks. I don't think that's going to be quite enough to get up there. But this feels like Schwessinger's award. Do you guys have anyone else? Maybe Nick Emanwari, Mehrob, gets a little bit of love here. What are you guys thinking for the defensive rookie of the year?
I'm thinking Luke, 100%. Sorry, Mehrob, but I mean, Luke's in my. I've been thinking about him about winning. I think he's been my kind of lock for the past 4 weeks now. I mean, he is sixth in all linebacker tackles, 150 in his rookie year. I mean, he is really with. I mean, him that Browns defense is just they have a lot of weapons there, and him kind of leading the pack, him leading the linebacker core as a rookie, stepping up, becoming just an absolute just playing like he should. He's just playing like a great linebacker. He's just a hard hitter, 150 total tackles rookie year. I mean, I feel like there's really no one else who can really take it away from him. He just had a great overall rookie season. Probably the second best. Without Myles Garrett, he would have been the best, Browns defender. But obviously, Myles Garrett exists. Maybe Mason Graham, But I think he was the best part of that. Gets that Browns depth, but like the deep, I guess. But I think he should win it. I just don't see anyone else doing it.
You got a pick for this one, Mehrob?
I think I have to roll with Schwessinger just based on how he's been playing this year. I would have said Nick Emanwari, but I mean, Emanwari is just also playing in a really prolific defense. I mean, I'm sorry, Nolan, but the Seattle defense is just better in every level outside of maybe pass rush because they don't have Myles Garrett, but they're better in every other department than the Browns, I would say. So it's just hard for Nick Emanwari to eat, especially as a safety. It's just got to be Schwessinger. I would say Emanwari's definitely going to be good for a while, and I think he might have a chance to be like most improved next year or whatever. Continue to play at a high level if he continues to play really, really good football. But yeah, it's got to be Schwessinger.
Yeah. I'm on the same page. Carson Schwessinger is my guy. Coach of the year is an interesting conversation. I think there's three names that kind of sit above the rest right now. Mike Vrabel of the New England Patriots, Liam Cohen of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Ben Johnson. Three rookie coaches that have had huge turnarounds for their teams. Mehrob, I did not mention Mike McDonald. I don't think what he did this season quite compares to those other three guys. He deserves a shout out for sure. But I don't think he's in that coach of the year conversation. Maybe I'm way off on my read here, though.
Go, Nolan.
All right, man. I'll take it away. I think, in my opinion, it's going to be either Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel. I think, obviously, Liam Cohen came into the Jaguars, it's not a good spot. He had the weapons, but the team just hasn't been that good for the past few years. And they were on a hot seat, and he got 13 wins and 4 losses with a solid roster. But I think that since Vrabel and Ben Johnson both are, second in their respective divisions or conferences, I think, and they both won their divisions or conferences, sorry. I mean, I think those two are just the locks for it. It's either going to be one of those two. They both, like I said, second place in the AFC, NFC, both won their divisions. I think you just have – plus the Patriots haven't been a playoff team in, 5 years? Last thing they were, they got slaughtered by the Bills. The last time the Bears were in the playoffs? 2019, 2018. I mean, either way.
It's that double doink. It's been a while.
Oh, wow. It's been that long. Jeez. Yeah. Ben Johnson really came into an organization still without a 4,000-yard passer and turned them into a playoff team in 1 year. That's pretty impressive. And the roster is pretty good. He had a great draft. He really drafted some great guys. The defense is there, but I don't know who it's going to be. I think it's still I just don't want to decide who it is. So I'm just going to throw it up 50-50, Vrabel or Ben Johnson. Like I said, Cohen's good. It's going to be Johnson or Vrabel, though.
I know you got some thoughts, Mehrob.
Vrabel's going to win it. Let me start by prefacing Vrabel's going to win it. Being able to flip a 4-win team to a 14-win team, is nothing short of miraculous. It has to go to Mike Vrabel, one. I would also throw Sean Payton's name in there, the way he's been able to turn the Broncos organization around. I know that team also made the playoffs last year, barely snuck in as a wild card, turns around and gets the number 1 seed in the AFC. The way that defense is playing, I would give him a nod as well. But to not throw Mike McDonald in there, Jeremy, you're just rage baiting me, man.
I
You have
promise
to
you,
be.
I'm not.
You have to be. You actually have to be. Because this guy, the way that Mike McDonald has changed the culture in 2 years, going from a 9-win team, didn't even make the playoffs last year, had a really bad stretch down the stretch of the season last year. I think that he went like 2-5 to close the year. They lose their starting quarterback. He brings in Sam Darnold, a guy off the street who just came up off a 7-sack, 2-interception game in the wild card round where he got decimated by the Rams. They bring him in, and he turns Sam Darnold into what he is now. I mean, and he goes out there and wins 14 games. It has if it wasn't for Mike Vrabel, it just could not have not been Mike McDonald for me. I mean, Mike McDonald is that good, that great. Ben Johnson is good. I do still see some holes in that Chicago team. I'll be honest. I mean, I don't think a team that goes out there and has like 8 wins in the last 2 minutes of games can be in that sort of conversation. I know he's great. I know the team has some wins, but I do think the quality of wins that the Seahawks have had to go out there and like I haven't seen a team go out there and 30-piece an opponent in the first half in multiple games in a long time. They went out there and had multiple 28-3 leads by the end of the first half. And to go out there and do that, and especially what he's done in a short time, Mike McDonald deserves a head nod. If it wasn't for Mike Vrabel's just done miraculous things in New England, but outside of him, stop rage baiting me about Mike McDonald. That's my boy right there.
Look, man, I'll just say this and I'll leave it be. This is coach of the year. It's not coach of the 2 years, right? Maybe if it was coach of the last 2 years, sure. But it's coach of the singular year. You can't say, oh, it should go to Mike McDaniels because, Mike McDonald, excuse me, because the last 2 years, look at what he's done. That's not the criteria here. I understand. In a normal coaching year, absolutely. In a year where the NFL doesn't just flip on its head and there aren't like a million new teams that come out of nowhere, absolutely. And he deserves a shout out. He deserves love in this race. He's just not a top 3 guy for me. You look at the turnarounds of some of these franchises that have come like that in year 1 with just the addition of these coaches. More than any personnel move, more than anything else, it's the coach addition that made this change in the Jaguars, in the Bears, in the Patriots. Look, in the Seahawks, you could argue the big change was Sam Darnold coming in. That was the big change. It wasn't Mike McDonald. And look, I understand Mike McDonald has done an excellent job, but you could make the argument that it wasn't even Sam Darnold. It wasn't Mike McDonald. Excuse me. Oh my God. But it was the offensive coordinator, Click Kubiak, that came in from the Saints. These are all things that changed from last year to this year with the same head coach, and that's the big jump you're seeing. I think he did an amazing job, but he is not the coach of the year. I think there's too many other things that changed around him that wasn't him changing that team.
I think you're right about that. I do think his defensive mind has to be noted, the way that he's been able to turn around that Seahawks defense. Yeah, the Seahawks might have been like top 15 last year. They're top 2 at top 3, I would say now. That Seahawks defense is phenomenal. So I think, and especially Mike McDonald, the defensive mind, that 14 wins I think you're right. Ben Johnson does have that edge, and I still give the edge to Mike Vrabel as coach of the year. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces in this, but I think the head of the helm, the head of the snake is Mike McDonald, being able to keep the pulse of the locker room the same way Sean McVay did it when he brought a new culture to the Rams as an offensive guy. That's what Mike McDonald has done on a defensive level, I would say. So I think it goes both ways, but at the end of the day, we agree that Mike Vrabel is the front runner for sure, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm on the Mike Vrabel train. I'm real close on Liam Cohen, but I'm giving it to Vrabel, what he did over there, making a quarterback an MVP. That's very, very impressive. Let's talk about comeback player of the year here real quick. Comeback player of the year, I've got Phillip Rivers. You want to talk about the definition of a comeback player? It's got to be him, right? There wasn't a major player coming off of injury that I thought had a huge year, right? You could argue Aiden Hutchinson, but he didn't have the greatest season. He had a great season, but he didn't have, the pace of the season that he was on before he got hurt last year. I think what Phillip Rivers did was just an incredible story, and I think he'll get comeback player of the year to end his career.
I don't see anyone else winning it. I think it has to be Phillip Rivers. I just can't see anybody else. Look at the man, 45 years old, coming back off the couch, doing it for the love of the game. Gotta love it.
I think for me, I know Phillip Rivers did a lot of great things. For me, this is where CMC comes to play, I would say. The way he came off of multiple Achilles injuries, issues last season that he couldn't shake his calf issues, had to get surgery at the end of the year. This guy had 1,000 rushing yards and nearly had 900 receiving yards. 1,000 rushing yards and 900 receiving yards. He's an absolute monster. And if it wasn't for, and now I see why you were saying that, Jeremy, that he should be offensive player of the year. I think Christian McCaffrey deserves a lot of credit in the world. I mean, outside of him, Phillip Rivers, and I would throw maybe Dak Prescott's name in the conversation, the year he's had over there in Dallas. I know they haven't had a whole lot of success, but Dak Prescott has had a great year in Dallas this year too. So, but I would give the head nod to Christian McCaffrey for sure. He's been an absolute beast this season.
Absolutely. He was a guy that I thought about throwing in there, but God, he's so good. But I had to give the nod to Phillip Rivers here. Those are our award picks. I'll run through my final picks real quick before we get to our NFL playoff power rankings. MVP Drake May, Offensive Player of the Year Christian McCaffrey, Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett, Offensive Rookie Ted McMillan, Defensive Rookie Carson Schweschinger, Coach of the Year Mike Vrabel, and Comeback Player of the Year Phillip Rivers. Let's talk a little bit about the playoff teams, though, here, because there are 14 teams still alive vying for a Super Bowl. Let me give you a breakdown of where all 14 teams stand right now. At number 14, it's got to be the Carolina Panthers. They snuck into the playoffs. They're the only team with a negative point differential, at least a massive negative point differential. They weren't even the best team in their division, and they find a way to win the division. I've heard people say that they were the worst team in their division, which I can give a little bit of credence to that argument, honestly. Look, they lost to the Bucs the final week of the season. That makes them worse than the current version of the Bucs, right? They lost both times to the Saints. That makes them worse than the Saints, right? And I think you could make the argument that they're worse than the Falcons despite them beating the Falcons. The Falcons are just bipolar, and that's the way that they play football. Do I think that that's like a little bit of a stretch of an argument? Absolutely, I do. But the fact that I can sit there and be like, you know what? I kind of see your point. That's ridiculous. I still support the fact they get a home game. I think it's super fun. But the Panthers are the worst team in the playoffs by, I would say, a pretty wide margin. At number 13, I've got the Green Bay Packers. Once they sat out, and once they lost Micah Parsons, once he had his injury, that defense fell apart. When that defense fell apart, they can't stop the run. And what do you have to be able to do to be successful in the playoffs? You got to be able to stop the run. The Packers are the 13th best team in the playoffs right now. There's a reason why they are the 7th seed. The Steelers at number 12 for me here. They are really good. They made the playoffs. That defense is nice. But we saw how inept that offense is when they have to go up against any kind of defense at all. We saw that last week. I know they put up points down the stretch, but they only started putting up points once Kyle Hamilton left. And Kyle Hamilton, one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL, for sure. The best safety in the league. But they were completely stonewalled when Kyle Hamilton was out there. He went down with a little bit of Raven on Raven action right there. Alohi Gilman and him collided. He had to get out for the rest of the game, and that is what sank the Ravens. I truly believe if that injury didn't happen, the Ravens would be still alive today, and the Steelers would be sitting at home on their couches. The Chargers at number 11. I think that's where the line starts to draw, where you see the Steelers, Packers, Panthers. Those teams, I think, are just elimination fodder right now. The teams ahead of them, you can make an argument that they could win a game or two here. The Chargers are one of those teams. They've got a really interesting matchup this week. They're taking on the Patriots in Foxborough. Justin Herbert's one of my favorite quarterbacks. He deserves a lot of love for what he's done this season, despite the offensive line being maybe the worst in the NFL because of all of those injuries. That defense plays really well. This is a Chargers team that can play with any team. It's just a question of whether they will or not, whether they can get that offense going, whether that passing attack can get going, and whether that rushing attack can get established behind that atrocious offensive line. The Bears crack the top 10. Congratulations to the 2-seed Bears on making the playoffs. I just don't trust this team. I forget who it was. It was either Nolan or Mehrob. You guys brought it up that this team has won too many close games. And this is not a team that has looked competitive. This is not a team that has looked like confident all of those times in those 2-minute situations. They've gotten lucky a couple times. Missed field goals, blocked field goals, big plays, big moments, but not necessarily moments that I look at and I say, yeah, this is because the Bears were competent. This is just because the Bears were lucky a lot of times. And that's a huge part of games. It really is. The Bears are a good team. They play hard, and Ben Johnson keeps them in games, which is what you need, because in the game of football, if the ball bounces the right way for you, a lot of things can change in a really positive direction. They're sitting at number 10 for me, and they're dangerous, but I'm just not so scared of them winning a Lombardi trophy this year. I've got the Eagles at number 9. That offense scares me, but they've got the pedigree. They've got the defense. They've got the players. They've got the Super Bowl reigning MVP. They're the reigning Super Bowl champs. They've won their division. They're kind of limping into the playoffs after a loss against the Commanders, playing their third-string players, but this is an Eagles team that is dangerous if you let them get one. I think if they beat the 49ers in the wild card weekend, they're back to being their juggernaut selves. That's a crucial game for the future of the NFC. The Bills at number 8 for me. Maybe that's a little low. Maybe that's a little blasphemous. I just don't trust that defense, that rushing defense. Awful. Oh my God. It's so bad. It really, really is. We have Josh Allen playing great football right now, but there's no wide receivers for him to throw it to. Your wide receiver one, a 40-year-old Brandon Cooks, maybe? Is it Josh Palmer? Is it Keon Coleman? Khalil Shakir doesn't really have wide receiver one stuff in my mind. There's a lot to love about these guys, but I don't necessarily think that this is a Bills team that's going to be a huge, huge success, despite this being, quote-unquote, their year in the NFL. I'm giving the 7 spot, as we're halfway through the list now, to the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are really good. They are. Again, I just don't trust that defense. That's going to be a theme for a lot of them. Them, the Bears, they're really bad defensively. Turnover luck and a high-powered offense has powered this 49ers team to the spot where they're at, to 12 wins. They've got a tough matchup against the Eagles. They need to step up. They need to win that one. Otherwise, the Eagles are looking like they're going to be a dangerous team in the NFC. I've got the Jaguars at number 6. I'm a Trevor Lawrence supporter. I always will be. Trevor Lawrence, very good at football, and I think that he deserves a lot of love. I've seen some people throwing him as like I guess you need to have a third-place guy in MVP conversations, which is fun. He's had a really great season, especially in the second half once Jacoby Myers came to that team. That defense is playing really well. They've made a lot of great moves. I don't necessarily love the Tyson Campbell trade, but it's fine in the short term. It's not hurting. It's not necessarily helping them either. I think this is a Jaguars team that could be very dangerous. They play the Bills in round 1. The Broncos have that number 5 spot for me. I'm a Bo Nix hater. We flopped this, but I will say they've played really good football. They win games. They're like the Bears on steroids with the way that they win games in the final 2 minutes. They feel confident with the ball in their hand in the final 2 minutes. The Bears feel shaky to me, and that's the difference between the 5 spot and the 10 spot in my mind. That defense, elite. Also, the difference between the 5 spot and the 10 spot in my mind. There's a lot to like about this Broncos team, especially defensively. They've got lots of great weapons. I think Bo Nix is a competent quarterback. I think they can win a game or two in the playoffs here. We're talking at number 4, though, the Houston Texans. My dark horse pick. That defense is elite. For my money, the best defense in the NFL. You can talk to me about that offense being bad. Yeah, I'll give you that one. CJ Stroud has not had his best season, but if you look at the numbers, he's turned it up down this stretch because he finally learned that throwing the ball to Nico Collins is a good thing. I feel like that's pretty easy to do. I think that's a pretty self-explanatory kind of thing. Throw it to one of the best receivers in the NFL. Good things tend to happen. The emergence of Higgins out of Iowa State is having a huge impact on that offense as well. Woody Marks and Jamar Jordan at running back have turned around that offense a little bit. I think that team is going to be dangerous come playoff time, and they're my dark horse to come out of the AFC. But I do have the Patriots at number 3. They're my top-rated AFC team. This is a Patriots team that's dominated, despite a small strength of schedule, despite not having all those weapons, despite having a second-year quarterback in Drake May. I'm giving the nod over here to the New England Patriots, talking about what they've been able to do. It's been very impressive this season. Mike Vrabel, Coach of the Year. The Rams at number 2, it's kind of a 1A and 1B situation between them and the Seahawks. The reason I put the Rams at number 2 is because last time we saw these two teams play, the Seahawks took care of business. They won that game. So because of that, I'm giving the nod to the Seahawks at number 1. Both of these teams deserve to be front runners, deserve to be that number 1 spot. Both of these teams have had incredible seasons. Both of these teams have great defenses and really great offenses. The Rams skew more towards the offensive side, while the Seahawks skew more towards the defensive side of the ball. But there's still things to like on both sides of the ball. They're a very balanced team. They have great pass rush. They have good corners. And their quarterbacks are playing really good. The question is, do you trust Sam Darnold? Has he slain his demons? Has he come out and proven that he can be the guy that wins you big games? We'll have to see what happens when he faces some good pass rush. But when he was going up against the Niners in a very similar game to the one that lost him the 1 seed last year, he went out there and he got that job done, secured that 14th win. So I'm not as scared as I was when he was on the Vikings last year, but still a little bit of concern with me about Sam Darnold and this Seahawks team. He and the Seahawks are number 1, while the Rams and Matthew Stafford are number 2. I'll run through my list real quick one more time. Number 1, the Seahawks. 2, the Rams. 3, the Patriots. 4, the Texans. 5, the Broncos. 6, the Jags. 7, the Niners. 8, the Bills. 9, the Eagles. 10, the Bears. 11, the Chargers. 12, the Steelers. 13, the Packers. And 14, the Carolina Panthers. Mehrob, what are your thoughts on the NFL wildcard power rankings?
Not too bad of a list. I'm taking a little bit more of a presumptuous. I'm taking a little bit of a no, not presumptuous. A more of a cautious approach when it comes to the Seahawks. I have them actually sitting at 4 for me. I have the Broncos, Patriots, and Rams all above the Seahawks right now. All above them. I just can't sit there and I can't trust Sam Darnold in a big situation. I still can't do it because I know his ability to pass the ball down the stretch, especially in a big game, is really tough. Even though I know they got the job done against the Niners, I can't do it with them. I think if the Niners can get Trent Williams, Ricky Pearsall, and Fred Warner all back onto the field, I think they could enter the top 5 conversation of this list. That is how good those 3 guys can make this Niners team, I would say. When they're fully healthy, nobody wants to play the Niners, I don't think, not even the Rams. I would also still keep the Eagles there. I personally have the Texans way down in my list, sitting at 8. I know that's a little bit of a hot take because they have one of the best defense in the league. I can't run with CJ Stroud. I just can't do it. Especially he's very wishy-washy too. I just can't do it. And they don't have as much talent as the Seahawks. They're similar to the Seahawks, but the Seahawks have a little bit of a better team around the quarterback, while CJ Stroud is kind of just a little bit more of an island on the team. Outside of them, I like the list. It's a pretty good list. I'll say watch out for the Packers because I do think the Bears on a little bit of upset watch this year and this week. So I'm really excited for that game. I do think Jordan Love's going to go out there and shock some people. So the Packers could be a little bit of an upset this year.
We'll have to see. I agree with a lot of your thoughts. I think that defense of the Texans is going to be able to carry them a little bit more, and they won't have to rely on CJ Stroud as much. Same thing can be said about the Seahawks and Sam Darnold. Nolan, you have any thoughts on the power rankings here today?
Those are last. That's my team. Nah, but I think it's a great list. I really do think the Bears will. I think they could definitely lose in Chicago. The Packers, obviously historical rivals. I think that the Packers walk into Soldier Field and get it done. I truly do. I think even without Micah Parsons, even though their defense has them playing down to their standards, I think that their offense is good enough. And don't get me wrong, the Bears have a great defense, but they just get kind of bailed out for some lucky situations, lucky PI calls here and there. Playing against good teams without their best players being in. I think that going into this game with practically a fully healthy offense and practically almost a fully healthy defense without Micah Parsons, of course, I think that the Bears could be a little might be first round exits here. And but would I be mad at that? No, not at all. I think I like the list a lot. I think that the Texans absolutely, even as a 5 seed, could definitely make it, honestly, to the AFC Championship. If their defense does their job and their offense just plays semi-mediocre, the old saying goes, defense wins championships. See if that finally comes to fruition. I hope it does.
We'll have to see. Go for it.
That's like the list. I just want to say that. It's a good list.
We will have to see what happens down the stretch here in the wild card weekend. That is coming up next. We will be back tomorrow breaking down everything you need to know about the college football playoffs as the semifinals kick off tomorrow night. We will break down all of the matchups. We will talk a little bit more about what's going on around the world of sports. Maybe we talk a little bit about the Thunder being bad at basketball now. We'll talk about that and more. But I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus, joined by my two friends and co-hosts, Mehrob Fatemi and Nolan Jambor. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Triple Threat Show. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.